2011 Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show in Cleveland, Ohio. We're talking with Fritz Polosky. Fritz, take a moment and tell us about your background.
Well, I'm a millwright in the steel industry. I started working for Republic Steel 32 years ago. Started riding motorcycles in 1975 and got into Harleys, probably about 76, 77. And this little piece of creation we envisioned about 15 years ago and decided to build a custom bike.
What were you trying to accomplish with this build?
I wanted to have a motorcycle that I could win shows with, and I had seen a lot of friends that had custom bikes and built custom bikes. I helped them, so I had friends that owned motorcycle shops, so I got to see a lot of what goes into it, and I always thought someday I'd like to have a custom bike.
What was your vision for this motorcycle?
I wanted something better than anybody else had and fast.
Go ahead.
Well, what inspired you? What's your inspiration on this bike?
I wanted to use a shovel head motor and be able to compete with whatever was out there and build something that basically could go through time as Harley Davidson changed motor styles. I wanted to be able to use an old school style motor but have the technology to drive it.
Let's talk about the fabrication.
Okay. Well, my friend Howard designed and did the frame. We did it at a friend Huey Schwebs shop, Performance Engineering. Jesse Bassett worked for him, and he did a lot of the fitting and a lot of the work on it. And there were 5 or 6 of us that came together and did it. We had people that were good at electronics, people good at pneumatics, and friends that I've met over the years all came together and helped out.
Let's talk about the engine in here. It's a shovel head, obviously.
Yeah, it's 1982 Harley Davidson shovel head. Beefed it up with an S&S kit and took it up to 98 cubic inches. It's got rollerized rocker bearings, true balance flywheels, everything that could be done to make a shovel head with less drag on it did. And we used every bit of new technology we could find.
Let's talk about the breathing on that now.
Okay. Basically using the S&S carburetor that goes through a K&F supercharger, and that pushes the air into it. And
how much boost are you running?
Approximately 5 pounds of boost.
How much cost and time was devoted in the motor?
The motor took, the original build was probably about 4 or 5 months, and I had a nice motor and never started it, and then turned around and decided to rebuild it and do a show bike with it. So I actually had the motor done twice, and at a cost of, probably $6,000 or $7,000.
Let's start at the front end. Let's talk about the front end on this now.
Okay, I have a Mean Street front end that Jesse Bassett figured out how to make into a pneumatic cylinder, basically. So instead of using your hydraulic and oil, it's pneumatic and like air shocks. So it's a total air ride suspension, front and rear. What else can I say?
Let's talk about the neck. You said, what is it, 38 degrees?
It's approximately 35 to 38 degree rake, yeah. And that makes it a little easier on turning because it's
you got some length.
Yeah, I got a little length to work with.
Interesting part of this bike is the rear end. So the interesting part is that it's got 2 tires.
Yeah.
It's got a center sprocket. It's got dual brakes, and you got a center shaft to get your sprocket between the 2 tires. Let's talk about that.
Okay. The center shaft is basically, it's a very simple creation. It's one sprocket drives a shaft, it drives another sprocket, but we use the conical shape to keep with the flow of the machine, and that hides everything. So unless you're really looking at it, you wouldn't even know it's there. The tires, we could have used a wide fat tire, but we decided to go with 2 tires because it would be unique. That also increased your braking capacity, and it's a center pull, so you don't get that lean when you hit the throttle. You'll have more of a straight pull, and your braking will also be a lot straighter.
How does that handle cornering wise?
Cornering wise, you got to start turning way early if you want to handle it. You get a little more lean than you would off of like a drag slick because of the way that the tires are made. You can have a little more lean, and that's helpful.
So it's got a softer shoulder so you can roll easier with that then?
Yes, yeah.
Let's talk about paint.
Okay. The paint was done by a friend of mine, Nick Pastora. He painted NASCAR helmets, and I'd seen quite a bit of his work, and we were discussing who was going to paint it, and Nick's name came up, and I went and I talked to him, and we discussed colors and this and that, and we came up with a price, and he did a wonderful job.
Are those graphics airbrushed?
A lot of the graphics are hand done, believe it or not. It took him months to do it. A lot of people think you can slap on paint, but it actually took Nick about 3 to 6 months to paint it. And every time I'd stop up, he'd have a little bit more done, and a little bit more done, and a little bit more done.
Until he ran out of bike?
Until he ran out of bike, yeah. And there's quite a bit of hidden things in there. You can't really see it until you get it into the sunlight. It changes colors in the sunlight.
Who would you like to thank on this build?
I would like to thank Huey Schwebs, Jesse Bassett. I would like to thank Jeff, Gary, and Howard, and Nick.
If somebody'd like to get a hold of you for more information on your bike, do you have an email address for them?
Yes, I do. fritzthebiker@aol.com.
That's fritzthebiker@aol.com.
Yes.
Fritz, thank you very much.
Thank you.